secured a preservation order against the Gold Leaf Tobacco Corporation. The order blocks the producer from selling any assets while the receiver probes alleged tax avoidance. Tax Justice SA has welcomed the decision. Its founder and eNCA anti-crime expert Yusuf Abramjee joins us now for these details. I mean, Yusuf, even when we're looking at even the nature of this one, especially against the Gold Leaf Tobacco Corporation, how significant now becomes this finding?
Good morning, Faith. I think it's very significant. We know that the illicit trade has been rife in South Africa over many years. In fact, the media, specifically Crime Watch on eNCA, has repeatedly done exposés to show how easily illegal cigarettes are being sold on the market, openly and brazenly. A packet of 20 cigarettes, for example, that's supposed to be sold for about just over 21 Rand, is being sold for anything from 8 Rand to 15 Rand. So taxes clearly are being avoided. We know that the South African Revenue Service brought the application before the North Gauteng High Court. They were able to obtain a preservation order under the Tax Administration Act. So this is very significant. And by the way, Faye, this is the same company, Gold Leaf Tobacco Corporation, that some years ago sued me personally for about 50 million Rand for defamation because they say that I claimed that their products were illicit. And I think that this action now shows that the tax authorities finally have got to the bottom of this illicit trade investigation.
You know, when you speak about illicit cigarette trade, what is quite disheartening is to know that it's about 19 billion Rand or so that is lost as a result of this kind of trade. But for 19 billion Rand to be lost, Yusuf, I think it would be naive for us to think that, because crime persists in any country where it is allowed to persist. There are those that protect the criminals and protect the crime in itself. It surely speaks to perhaps a greater conversation we need to have about who's protecting this illicit trade, who's benefiting from it, who's benefiting from the avoidance of tax, and more importantly, how is it that 19 billion Rand can be lost in South Africa's economy and we simply allow it, and we've been allowing it for so long?
Faith, you raised such an important issue. The question is, how was it allowed to continue over many, many years so openly without any action? We know that under the leadership of Tom Moyane at SARS, there was a complete breakdown of the special units that were investigating the illicit trade. We know that some of these companies are allegedly protected by certain individuals. There are allegations of corruption. We know even in the latest case, there's allegations of money laundering. The Daily Maverick reporting that about 3 billion Rand is being owed to SARS. So billions of rands get lost every year as a result of the illicit trade, as a result of tax avoidance. And yeah, I think SARS needs to be complimented for finally taking some decisive action. We know that there are many other people involved in the tobacco trade. It's quite a dirty industry, as it's well known. But really, for them to have got away with this and got protection over many, many years is very, very worrying. Why was it allowed to continue? And I think at the end of the day, it's now important to focus on making sure that the prosecuting authority specifically brings these people to book. And we've been saying for a very long time, lock them up, take action, bring charges against them, because we know there's not only the illegal cigarette trade, we're talking of the fuel trade, the gold trade, people involved in wrongdoing on a mass scale. It's looting on a mass scale, Faith.
Yeah. You know, as you're speaking about how the assets in itself have been frozen, can they escape, or the executives of actual Gold Leaf find a way of, and as we've seen many a times, right, a company gets into trouble, the executives or the directors of the companies are actually fingered in that trouble, and then all of a sudden they vanish from the country, or they relocate, or they just move their assets offshore, or they move the little money that they've got access to offshore, and then before we know it, South Africa now needs to file extradition orders that we're still trying to get Bushiri back in the country, so I don't know how long that's going to take. But are we able to find this kind of modus operandi even take place for guys such as this? Because if you've got the directors nabbed, if you're doing an investigation against them, I think what will be uncovered is a can of worms about who's protecting the sector of industry. It's an industry, right? And it's a very delicate industry in itself. So can we find them trying to escape and move on to other shores whilst this investigation is taking place?
Well, we hope that the curator, the High Court has appointed a curator and attorney to take charge of Gold Leaf Tobacco Corporation, which, by the way, is a Zimbabwean-based company. The order is against two of its directors, Simon Rudden, very controversial business person, who's also involved in the gold trade, and Ibrahim Adamjee, who is running the operations of Gold Leaf Tobacco, and they've got their headquarters in Lynbro, Johannesburg. So the curator has been tasked with making sure that none of the assets are sold. He has now the mandate to run the business on a day-to-day basis. He has control of the bank accounts. He has control over the books. He can take decisions, and he can also, in terms of the court order, auction off any of the assets so that SARS can be paid the amount that is owing. And the suggestion has been it's about 3 billion rand. We are not sure of the exact amount, but it's a massive amount. This is a major breakthrough. These people need to face the law, and I hope that the prosecuting authority will move very swiftly to ensure that no one evades the law, because you are right, Faith, very often people escape the law only to get away with the wrongdoing, and that is why the curator, and I hope with the assistance of SARS and the NPA and the South African Police Service, will move very quickly to make sure that these people face the full might of the law, but very importantly also to bring an end to the illicit cigarette trade. We know that SARS has closed some of the smaller manufacturers before, and I hope they will take decisive action here again to bring an end to especially the illegal cigarette trade.
Yusuf, supply does not happen without demand. And clearly, for 19 billion rand to be involved, there's a high demand, and someone is the client and somebody is the supplier of the product, right? Where are we finding the demand actually coming from? Who's the demand that these suppliers are actually giving this illicit tobacco, illicit cigarettes to?
We know that these products are being sold openly at your corner cafe, the spaza shops, the supermarkets, the wholesalers. They are the people buying the illicit goods. We've been saying over many years, we've sent in hidden cameras as tax justice to show how openly that wholesalers are buying them and selling them to members of the public. So members of the public are buying the illicit cigarette trade, some of them knowingly, some of them want a cheaper option. We know that the minimum taxes on a box of cigarettes is just under 20 cigarettes, is just under 22 rand. So if you're buying it for 8 rand, 10 rand, 12 rand, and even 15 rand, it's virtually impossible to even manufacture a packet of 20 cigarettes for that price. So you're buying an illicit product, you're buying an illegal product. We know that the chain is massive. There are people who are involved in the manufacturing, the transportation. They're doing it in the name of legitimate brands. Gold Leaf Tobacco, for example, has several brands on the market. The RG brand that is being smuggled in from Zimbabwe. We've seen a massive increase in smuggling, especially since the lockdown. They have a number of other products on the market. They are being sold openly. So we are talking here of people within the entire chain, Faith, that are involved within this trade.
Yeah, it certainly is a win. I think more than anything else, a win, especially for those that are trying to fight this kind of travesty from happening. I think money coming out of the country and not being taxed at all, and even the illicit drug trade and the illicit cigarettes trade is something that we really need to be able to put a lid on very, very quickly. We're going to leave it there for now. Thank you very much for your time. Tax Justice SA founder Yusuf Abramjee giving us the latest on that matter.